I found out my wife slept with my daughter's fiance. I stayed silent. Then I destroyed them both, legally. I remember the exact moment I began to suspect something was wrong. It was a Tuesday, ordinary to anyone else. But to me, it became the day my life quietly cracked at the edges. My name is Robert Landon. I'm 47, a structural engineer, and the kind of man who organizes his toolbox alphabetically. Predictable, reliable, boring, if you ask my teenage daughter. But my wife, Vanessa, used to say she found peace in my steadiness. She said I grounded her. That was before everything started unraveling. That morning, I had kissed Vanessa on the forehead, as I always did. Same mug of coffee, same gentle touch of her shoulder as I whispered goodbye. She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. At the time, I chalked it up to stress. She was deep into launching a new line of interior design consultations, and she'd been spending more time at her shared workspace in the Arts District. I supported her, of course. Always had. It wasn't until I got home that night that I felt again that subtle shift in atmosphere. The house felt too quiet. Not empty, just muted, like something essential had been turned down a notch. Vanessa came down the stairs in a soft sweater, hair freshly washed, cheeks flushed. "Oh, hey, babe," she said, a little breathless. "Didn't hear you come in." She kissed me lightly and went straight for the kitchen. I followed. "You look nice," I said. "Go somewhere." She paused. "Just ran to the co-op for some herbs I forgot earlier. You know how I get about dinner flavors." I nodded, but my mind was already snagging on something. Her car was parked out front. She couldn't have walked to the co-op and back in the last half hour. I didn't say anything. Not yet. That night, while brushing my teeth, I caught a glimpse of her phone screen lighting up on the bathroom counter. A name popped up, Alec T. Just initials. Nothing else. And the message, "Tonight was perfect. Could get used to this." I didn't sleep much after that. The next day, I called in sick to work, a rarity for me. I couldn't shake the feeling growing in my gut. I wasn't ready to confront Vanessa, not without knowing more. I didn't want to accuse her based on a single message. Maybe it was business. Maybe it was innocent. But I couldn't ignore the way she smiled when she read the message, like she was being seen in a way I hadn't managed in years. By Thursday, I was sitting across from my longtime friend and occasional fixer, Marcus Doyle. He ran a private investigation firm downtown. Nothing flashy, just clean, quiet work. Discretion was his specialty. "I need to know if she's cheating on me," I said. My voice sounded hollow. Marcus leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowed. "You sure you want to go down this road, Rob?" "No," I admitted, "but I need the truth more than I need comfort." He nodded once. "I'll keep it quiet. No tales, just Tekken patterns. Give me 3 days." Day 1, nothing. Day 2, Vanessa told me she'd be working late with clients. I kissed her on the cheek and watched her drive away. 30 minutes later, Marcus sent me a photo. Vanessa walking into a luxury condo building I didn't recognize, accompanied by a tall man in a charcoal coat. He had a tan, a smug grin, and that unmistakable body language of someone who knows exactly how desirable he is. His name's Alex Tremaine. Marcus texted me. Fitness consultant. Former model. Been linked to 2 other married clients. No arrests, but a trail of silence payments and NDAs. He's a pro. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. My wife, Vanessa, was tangled up with a predator, a con artist, and our daughter, Elise, had met him just last week at one of Vanessa's client dinners. She said he seemed cool. I felt sick. The worst part wasn't that Vanessa was seeing someone else. It was realizing she brought him into our home, into Elise's orbit without hesitation, like she was blind to what he was. Or worse, complicit. And suddenly, I wasn't just a betrayed husband. I was a father on high alert. I wish I could say I first sensed something was wrong when Diana stopped kissing me goodbye in the morning, but that would be a lie. The truth is, it was a silence. Diana had always been a woman of motion, meetings, phone calls, to-do lists. But lately, The silences between us had grown longer. Not angry silences, just empty ones. And that, I think, hurt even more. It started with the gym. Elite Fitness, she said, dropping the name casually over coffee one Saturday. A new trainer? I asked. Group classes. She said, eyes on her phone. They do Pilates with ropes now. You wouldn't get it. I didn't. But I let it go until the credit card statements came in. There were charges from luxury boutiques I'd never heard of, late-night Uber rides across town, dinners for two at places I knew I hadn't taken her to. At first, I thought maybe it was work. Real estate could be unpredictable, and Diana, to her credit, had built an empire. She'd earned her independence. I wasn't the jealous type. At least, I never used to be, but then came the photo. Nick, my best friend since college, and the only man I trusted with the full truth, sent it to me one night. It was grainy, captured from a security camera at a downtown parking garage. But even blurry, I knew it was her. Diana, and a man. Not me. They weren't holding hands. They weren't kissing. But the space between them was intimate, like a shared secret. Nick called me that night. I ran his plate, he said. Name's Nathan Wells. 33, fitness trainer. He does some modeling too, shirtless poses all over Instagram. You want me to dig? I didn't even need to answer. He already knew. The next few days were a blur. I went to work. I inspected beams and cement pours. I signed forms, but my mind wasn't in it. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was Nick. I needed clarity. Answers. Anything but this sick, gnawing uncertainty. On Thursday, he finally called. You're not going to like this, he said. He was right. Turns out Nathan had a history. A sealed court record in California hinted at an affair with a married woman whose husband accused Nathan of manipulating her into leaking business data. No charges were ever filed. Settled quietly, but it was enough. I knew his type now. Charming, calculated, the kind who saw people as ladders. And my wife, my Diana, was letting him climb. But the worst part wasn't Diana. It was Claire. Nick found a video. Security footage from the same gym. Claire was there, laughing, talking to Nathan like they were friends. Like more than friends. My stomach turned. This wasn't just betrayal. This was strategy. Nathan had inserted himself into my family, like rot beneath polished wood, slowly spreading, infecting. And Diana? She wasn't just falling for him. She was protecting him. I heard her say his name in a phone call I recorded later that night. He makes me feel seen, Claire, she whispered. I sat in the dark, headphones on, the static of the recorder hissing in my ear, and felt something inside me break. I wasn't just losing my wife. I was losing my daughter, too. And Nathan Wells, the snake in designer gym gear, was at the center of it all. I couldn't sleep that night. My hands were trembling, not from fear, but from restraint. The urge to confront them both, right then and there, was suffocating me like smoke in a sealed room. But I wasn't ready yet. Not until I had everything. Proof, timing, control. The next morning, I moved on autopilot, made coffee, took a longer than usual shower, kissed Diana goodbye. Her lips met mine like glass. Cold, polished, empty. I watched her drive off to the front window, her Range Rover gliding out of the driveway like she hadn't just shattered the foundation of our life. I waited exactly 8 minutes, long enough for her to reach her usual gym, before I pulled the equipment out of the hall closet. Military-grade surveillance devices, a parting gift from a cousin who served overseas. I never imagined I'd use them this way, but life doesn't ask for your permission when it guts you. I installed the first mic behind the crown molding in the bedroom. The second went into the vent above the kitchen table, where she loved to sit and talk on the phone with her feet propped up like a queen without a kingdom. A third one, tucked into the hallway wall, would catch anything between her office and the bathroom. By the time I was done, I was drenched in sweat, not from the labor, but from betrayal, from imagining what her voice would sound like when it wasn't lying to me anymore. Because I'd finally hear the truth without filters. That night, I sat in the garage, the laptop screen glowing blue in front of me. My heart pounded like a war drum in my chest as I slipped in a memory card. I'd left the system running for only a few hours, but it had captured enough. First, a conversation with Claire. My daughter's voice was small, hesitant. He keeps texting me. I told him it was a mistake. My breath caught. Don't worry. Diana's voice followed. He's just nervous. He doesn't want you to hate him. Claire answered, almost in a whisper. I don't hate him. I don't know anymore. A pit formed in my stomach. I paused the audio, ran my hands through my hair, and leaned back. So it was true. Claire had slept with him. And Diana knew. Not only knew, she was covering for him. What kind of mother protects the man who manipulates her daughter? I hit play again. He'll be at the party. Don't make it awkward. The words cut through me like barbed wire. There was no shame, no guilt, just strategy. Like they were preparing for a political gala. Not a party where the man who broke my daughter would be smiling and shaking hands with friends of the family. I listened for another hour. There were conversations about bank accounts, about transferring ownership of certain properties before the divorce. She didn't know I'd already begun freezing accounts under the guidance of my attorney, Martin Beck. At one point, she said his name. Nate wants to keep everything quiet. He says Robert's a traditionalist and won't suspect anything until it's too late. I rewound that line 4 times. He thinks I'm a fool. I opened a folder on my laptop and created a file titled Operation Reversal. I wrote a single sentence at the top. Asterisk, he thinks I won't strike back. He's wrong. Asterisk. The next day, I took leave from the city inspector's office. I told them I needed time to handle personal family matters. They didn't ask questions. Maybe the way I looked made them afraid of the answers. I visited my brother Greg and quietly signed over the temporary title of my house. The legal process was ironclad, thanks to Martin. That house was now protected, off the grid and untouchable in case Diana tried anything. Then I walked into First River Bank and moved $$82,000 into a new account under a business name I created years ago and never used, Pine Hill Structures, LLC. I closed every joint account Diana had access to and left her a single credit card with a $500 limit, just enough for gas and groceries. Enough to sting. When I returned home, she was on the couch scrolling through her phone. I handed her takeout and smiled like I used to before our life became a performance. Thanks, she muttered. I sat beside her. Close. Too close. I needed her to feel my presence and not know whether it meant danger or indifference. Big week coming up, I said. She looked at me like she was trying to read a language she'd forgotten. Yeah, she said. Claire's party. You're still coming. Of course, I said, sipping my water slowly. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Because that would be the stage. And every mask would fall. I always thought betrayal would come like a lightning strike. Fast, blinding, and final. But instead, it seeped in like a slow poison. Now, I wasn't just wounded. I was calculating. The morning after I found out everything, about my wife, about my daughter, about him, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table until the sun came up, staring at the financial statements and surveillance photos Nick had printed for me. I wasn't thinking like a husband. I was thinking like a man who's just been stabbed and is now stitching up the wound himself. First move, containment. I drove to the bank right after it opened. The manager, who knew me well from my years as a city contract consultant, greeted me with a warm smile. I didn't smile back. I need to restructure all access to the joint accounts. Effective immediately, I said, within an hour, my name was the only one with authority on our shared savings and brokerage accounts. I opened 2 new private accounts, one for liquid assets, one for a legal war chest. Every transaction now required my biometric confirmation. Next, I called Martin Beck, my attorney. He wasn't surprised to hear from me. Robert, I was expecting your call. You want to play offense or defense? Both, I said. But I want her locked out of everything before she even notices. Martin laughed softly. You came prepared. I like that. We met at his office by noon. I brought every document, Every bank statement, copies of the messages Nick intercepted, and the footage. Martin studied them with a quiet intensity. We'll start by protecting your assets. You'll transfer the deed on the house temporarily to your brother Greg through a revocable trust. That'll buy us time and keep her from leveraging it. Credit cards canceled. Retirement funds freeze the access point. And we'll notify the insurance company to update your primary beneficiary. Done, I said. Martin looked at me. Robert, this is going to hurt. Emotionally. Even with all the logic and evidence on your side, divorces like this, they cut deep. You sure you want to go full burn? I thought of Dee's hand on his chest, of Claire lying to me for him. I nodded. I'm past the burn, Martin. I'm Ash. Now I rebuild. That night, Dee came home around 9. She looked at me from the doorway as if nothing had happened. There was tension in her smile, hesitation in her step. Long day, she asked. Busy, I replied. You. Meetings. Claire stopped by too. We talked about the wedding plans. That's so. She nodded and started heading to the kitchen. I watched her closely. She was good, better than I remembered. But now I was better. She poured herself wine, oblivious that her entire access to our finances had been severed. I waited until she went to bed. Then I opened the laptop and checked the notifications. 5 failed login attempts on the joint account. 2 password reset emails sent to her address. A flagged attempt to transfer $4,000 to a boutique florist. She was scrambling. I stared at the screen and whispered, "Game on." The next day, I filed a petition for divorce. Grounds: irreconcilable differences. My lawyer sent it via courier, with a tracking number and delivery confirmation. By lunch, I had a missed call and 3 texts from D. D asterisk, what is this? D asterisk, can we talk? D asterisk, please don't do anything stupid. But I wasn't being stupid. I was being exact. Surgical. That evening, Claire showed up at my house. She didn't knock. She let herself in like always, as if nothing had changed. But everything had. Dad, what's going on? Mom's freaking out. She said you're cutting her off. She's being cut off because she sold out this family for a liar with biceps. Claire flinched. You don't understand. It wasn't like that. No? Then tell me exactly what it was. You knew, Claire. You knew. And you said nothing. She looked down, suddenly aware of how deep the betrayal ran. I made a mistake, but she's still Mom. She stopped being my wife the moment she let him into our lives. And you helped him walk through the door. Claire left in tears. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in weeks. Not because I was happy, but because the war had started, and I was finally the one pulling the strings. I knew they would come for me next. Him, especially. But I was ready. The trap was already in place. The next morning, I woke up in a bed that no longer felt like mine. The sheets still carried her scent, but the warmth was gone, both literally and metaphorically. I stared at the ceiling fan for what felt like an eternity, its rhythmic turning no longer hypnotic, just empty. My world had cracked, and I could still hear the echo of that fracture in the silence of the room. I didn't even touch my coffee. That was a first in 20 years. I poured it, watched the steam curl, then left it untouched as I sat at the kitchen table, watching the sun fight its way through the blinds. Everything in the house suddenly felt misplaced. The photos on the wall were fake smiles. The notes on the fridge, lists, reminders, grocery scribbles, now looked like carefully staged props in a theater of deception. Then my phone buzzed. It was Claire. Asterisk, Dad, can we talk? Asterisk, my heart sank. I wasn't ready. But I replied, asterisk, come over. We need to. Asterisk. She arrived an hour later. No makeup. Puffy eyes. Hoodie too big for her. And that was all I needed to see. My little girl was broken too. She sat across from me, hands wrapped tightly around a mug. She didn't drink from either. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have told you everything sooner. I was ashamed. No, I said, try and keep my voice even. You didn't owe me that. You owed yourself better than him. She stared down. I thought he loved me. I thought I was special. He told me Mom didn't appreciate him, that she treated you like a paycheck. And then he slept with your mother. She nodded once. Silent tears slid down her cheek. I hate him, Dad. I hate her. I don't even know who she is anymore. Neither did I. Claire told me everything she knew. Naten's manipulation. The private gym sessions that turned into text messages, then into flirty jokes, then confessions. How he kept her close long enough to meet Diana. How, within weeks, he was in both their lives, wearing different masks for each of them. I found emails, Claire said, from him to Mom. Disgusting things. Pictures. He told her they had a future. That you were too old, too boring. He said he could give her back her fire. I swallowed the bile rising in my throat. She believed him? She wanted to. I think she needed to. I understood that too well. Needing to believe something so badly that you ignore everything telling you it's a lie. That had been me, too. I told Claire about the cameras, the recordings, the financial records Nick had found, about Melissa Torrance and the escort ring, about the shady payments, the lawsuits, the web of manipulation spun by Naten with surgical precision. I thought she'd be furious at the surveillance, but instead she laughed, bitter and raw. You were the only one paying attention, weren't you? Looks like it. She put her hand on mine. I want him gone. I'm already working on it. That afternoon, I met with Martin Beck, the divorce lawyer. We went through the files. The financial trail was crystal clear. Diana had been siphoning off our joint savings under fake invoices, labeling them as property development expenses. But those payments all funneled to shell companies linked to Naten. I have enough here, Martin said, to have her charged with financial misconduct. If you want to press it. I didn't answer. Not yet. Then Sarah Chun, my private investigator, messaged. Surveillance complete. You'll want to see this. Tonight, I met her at a small office above a laundromat. Classic setup, dusty, dimly lit, with folders stacked high and 2 monitors playing footage from the past 48 hours. One screen showed Naten meeting a woman at a hotel lobby. She looked mid-50s, elegant, confident. They kissed, then entered the elevator. The next clip was from a cafe. Naten with another woman. Younger. Same script. Flirty smiles. Elbow touches. Confidence. Then Sarah played a voice memo. From Diana. You promised you'd delete everything. I trusted you, Naten. Relax, babe. I've got you covered. Just keep cool. You're not the first wife to panic, and you won't be the last. I felt the air leave my lungs. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was tactical. I was never the enemy. I was the pawn. Claire? A stepping stone. Diana? A useful fool. But not anymore. That night, I stood in my study, looking at a framed photo of Diana and me. Back when everything still looked real. I took it down. Behind it, hidden in the drawer, were the signed trust documents, the asset transfer papers, and the property deed, now under Greg's name. Diana had no idea yet, but she would. Soon. I picked up my phone and dialed her. We need to talk. The cafe smelled of burnt espresso and lemon cleaner. I waited at the corner booth, back against the wall, where I could see the door. Old habits die hard when you've been betrayed in your own home. The waitress offered a refill I didn't touch. Across from me sat the woman I once believed I'd grow old with. Diana looked tired, thinner, paler than I remembered. She wore a navy suit that didn't quite fit her the way it used to. She wasn't the radiant force she had been in real estate meetings or charity galas. Now she looked like someone clinging to control. So, she began, her voice as flat as her expression. You wanted to meet. I nodded, took out the manila envelope, and slid it across the table. These are your withdrawals. I said, $75,000, disguised as marketing expenses, all funneled to NW Consulting, your lover's shell company. She didn't touch the envelope. That's ridiculous. The forensic accountant disagrees. So does the IRS. A flicker of panic passed through her eyes. Not fear for the consequences. Fear of losing control of the narrative. I leaned forward. You use Claire to get to me. Then you use Naten to escape your own dissatisfaction. You could have asked for a divorce, Diana. You didn't have to set the whole house on fire. She swallowed hard, blinked slowly. I didn't know it would go this far. Not and he said he loved me. He said that to half the women on that list. I pulled another photo from my jacket, one of the dossiers Naten kept, intimate photos, financials, notes. He's a predator, Diana. You handed him the keys. Her lip trembled. She reached for the photo, then pulled her hand back as if it might burn her. I continued. You're lucky I didn't go public. Lucky Claire came to her senses. But you emptied our joint accounts for a con man. You tried to erase our life. She looked down. I thought I hated you. I thought you stopped seeing me. No, Diana. I stopped seeing this version of you. The one who lies, manipulates, endangers her own daughter. The silence between us was thick. The waitress came back, dropped the check without asking. I paid it without blinking. I'm giving you a choice, I said. Standing up, take your lawyer, take your share and walk. Or go to court, have everything exposed, and lose more than money. She didn't respond. Just sat there, blinking away tears she wouldn't let fall. As I walked to the door, I turned back one last time. You buried the marriage, Diana. I'm just writing the epitaph. Outside, the wind hit me like truth, sharp, cold, but clarifying. Back in my truck, I took a deep breath. One more piece in place. Claire was safe. Diana was cornered. And Naten? The FBI had everything they needed. The reckoning had begun. I was halfway through my third cup of coffee when I heard the knock, sharp, deliberate. I opened the door to find a woman in a dark blazer, holding a leather folder and a badge. Mr. Carver? She asked. I'm Special Agent Lisa Garner, FBI. We need to talk. She had the kind of calm that comes from seeing the worst in people and surviving it. I stepped aside and let her in. My kitchen table was a mess. Legal pads, surveillance photos, USB drives, and the wreckage of sleepless nights. She scanned the mess and said, You've been digging. He came after my family, I replied. I couldn't just sit on my hands. She placed her folder down. Good, because we think you uncovered something bigger than just a con artist with pretty eyes. Nathan Wells is part of a coordinated network, a ring of social predators targeting wealthy, emotionally vulnerable women. We believe he's connected to at least 12 other cases across state lines. I exhaled. It was worse than I imagined. She continued. We have surveillance on him. 2 days ago, he tried to board a private jet in Atlanta using falsified credentials. We intercepted a call he made before that. He mentioned you, Robert, said you had what he needed. What could I possibly have? I asked, genuinely confused. Leverage. And maybe, in his twisted logic, a shot at redemption or revenge. They wanted my help. The Bureau would stage a safe, monitored meeting. My job was simple. Get him talking. Get him to give up the names. The next morning, I found myself in a quiet government facility with a glass wall and a table between me and the man who almost destroyed everything. He walked in with that same casual arrogance. No cuffs. Just an unshaven jaw and worn designer jacket. The kind of man who could make a room believe he was the smartest person in it, even when drowning. Robert, he said with a forced grin, I was wondering when you'd come say goodbye. You're not going anywhere, I said flatly. He smirked. Ah, the hero thing. I get it. I let him talk. That's what men like him love, the sound of their own voice. He offered me a deal. The names of everyone involved, bank accounts, passwords, offshore details. In exchange, leniency, not immunity. He was smart enough to know that was off the table. Behind the mirror, Agent Garner was listening, recording everything. Why? I asked, why now? Because it's collapsing, he said, suddenly dead serious. And if I go down alone, I take them with me. But if I give you what you need, maybe I don't rot in some box forever. I stared at him. Start writing, I said. He did, name after name, detail after detail. By the time the session ended, I was staring at a folder that could tear down a dozen careers, a dozen lives. And somewhere deep down, I realized this wasn't closure. It was ignition, Because this wasn't just about saving Claire, or punishing Diana, or humiliating Nathan. This was war. A war against men who smiled while they destroyed. And I wasn't done yet. I never thought I'd find myself back in that old cafe. Same corner table. Same dull hum of the espresso machine. But nothing felt the same. Not after everything that had happened. Across from me sat the woman I had loved for more than half my life. The woman who shared my bed, my name, and, for a time, my trust. And also the woman who nearly destroyed me. Diana looked better than I expected. Healthier. Stronger. There was a light in her eyes that I hadn't seen in years. A light that wasn't born of deceit, but perhaps of healing. "I'm glad you came," she said, stirring her coffee nervously. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't," I admitted. "Too many ghosts in this place." She looked down. "Harold, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted to tell you the truth. All of it." I sipped my drink. Bitter. Like everything else I'd swallowed this year. "Go ahead." She took a deep breath. "Nathan didn't just seduce me. He studied me. Studied us. He knew I was growing distant. Knew about the money from my dad's estate. Knew about our arguments over Claire. He mirrored what I was craving. Attention, validation, charm. I fell into his trap. I stayed silent, letting her speak. I needed to hear it. I needed the words to cut, so they could stop festering inside me. He made me feel alive again, she continued. But it was all manipulation. Once I tried to pull away, he threatened to ruin me. And Claire said he had photos, messages, things I didn't even know he was recording. My hands clenched under the table. "Did you love him?" She looked up at me, tears welling. "No, I thought I did. But I see now I was addicted to fantasy, and blind to the damage I was doing." Silence again, the kind that fills every corner of a room. I leaned back. I spent months blaming myself, wondering if I was too absent, too focused on work, not enough as a husband or father. But now I realize that no one deserves what you and Nathan did to me. She nodded. "You didn't, and I'm sorry." I believed her. For the first time in a long while, I actually believed her. But belief doesn't mean you rebuild. Some bridges burn for good reason. "I'm not here to rebuild us, Diana," I said. "That ship sailed the day Claire came to me sobbing after finding out you were sleeping with the same man she once loved." She flinched. "I know, but I'm also not here to carry that hate anymore," I added. "I want peace. For Claire, for our grandchild, and maybe for us in whatever form that means." She smiled weakly. "That's more than I hoped for." The door jingled. A mother with 2 toddlers walked in. Life keeps moving, even after yours is shattered. Later that week, I met Claire and Tommy at their new place. Their baby, James Harold Patterson, was already learning to smile. Funny how a tiny human could carry such a heavy legacy and yet bring so much light. I held him in my arms and whispered, "You're gonna know love, kid. The real kind. The kind no one can fake." The feds finished their investigation. Nathan's network spanned 6 states. Dozens of women. Millions in hush money. He was dead now, stabbed in prison by the brother of a woman he'd ruined. Karma's final check had cleared. As for Diana, she moved to Atlanta. Still in real estate. We spoke sometimes. Short calls. Updates about Claire, the baby. She sent photos from time to time. I never deleted them. Because some stories don't end in reunion. They end in clarity. And that was enough.